Good morning, welcome to the first one in the Pivot Traders series of morning outlooks, Traders View. Let's get on and start with the usual process. I'm not changing what I'm looking at here. I'm really looking at the same things initially anyway. So let's get on and look at the news we've got coming out this today specifically, which is nothing but looks like it'll be this week in that case, just to look at pre-warners of what's coming through here. Main finances, so we've got the ECB meeting on Thursday, 12:45. Wednesday we've got job openings, right, nothing much more then. So really it's Thursday. I mean, Reserve Bank of Australia governor speaking there, due to speak financial review, business summit, okay, tomorrow, but it's a thinnish week. Thursday it's always a thinnish week after non-farms, which led to pretty much nothing. So okay, let's crack on and look at the markets themselves and start looking with the thanks super hands. Oh, looks terrible. I haven't had a look yet. I looked at it last night. I'll come round to all those. God, you're so impatient. Right, euro. So starting off looking at the euro. So the euro started off last night selling off some more. I can't see this changing too much, so long as things are there as they are. A ceasefire would see it changing significantly in Ukraine, but whilst things are getting escalating effectively, there doesn't seem to be a lot of cheer overall. However, having said that, there might just be a movement in the markets. And when I'm looking at this 4-hourly chart with a weekly pivot on it, and the weekly pivot's up above, so any move back to that would be an opportunity to sell. There's the same weekly pivot last week. It got close to it but never happened, but it did give opportunities during the week to sell from. I say later in the week it just gave opportunities, but the fact it was below the 4-hourly was kept it bearish enough. As we're looking at the market now, low highs, low lows running through here. It opened immediately selling, and well, we've had a bit of a bounce. I'm really looking at almost the daily pivot here above. Let me just some divergence. No, there's no divergence across these lows. Let's check. Probably a bit of RSI divergence, slightly different calculation. Certainly a bit of divergence there, but either way, I want to be selling when it retraces, as opposed to, I mean, there might be an opportunity this morning to get selling. So we'll see how things shape up. See if I can get in this morning at a slightly lesser price. When I do these ones which aren't where they want to, I'd rather it be back to the daily, but it might not ever get there. When I'm doing these, I'm looking at half size positions generally, so it's not as good in that respect, but it gives me an opportunity to either add in or let that one stop and trade the better one for the full position. Okay, that's the euro. Pound. So pound, similar picture in terms of selling off. It is close to its prior support levels here, but these markets, we could just see further continuation to the downside. Again, 4-hourly showing that picture of lower highs, lower lows. Again, a weekly pivot above that into the previous lows would be a lovely place to be shorting, and that's really where I would like it to come to. Ideally, that might be my ideal movement. Again, we've got a bit of divergence on the RSI. Let's have a look at MACD and MACD, so a bit more divergency. Again, though, if this rolls over in the next hour, I might be looking to join the downside. It's still relatively weak in terms of what's happening. And as I say, I'll just see how it shapes up. But again, consider position size, but maybe it's the same there, half sizes. Dollar yen. Seems like the same old. It's like Groundhog Day when I look at it. It's either just pushed up one way or pushed down the other way, and you get these little days in between where it goes nowhere. And perhaps today is one of those little days in between that's going to go nowhere. But it is range trading effectively. There's maybe opportunities to get into these ranges, but don't really fancy them too much. 4 hourly picture here. There you go. You see it very clearly. Yeah, this might be already on the road. Well, looks like it's already on the road back to those prior highs at this stage. Of course, that all things could change there, but it's the route of less resistance or least resistance. Okay, Aussie dollar continues to outperform, and really liking this one in terms of the upside of any retracements on this. To me is a buy, and it's the way it's been all last week. It's just very, very simple. It's in fact what's happening from the market's perspective. It's making life pretty easy, unless of course you're trading against the markets. If you continue trading against the markets, you're going to be losing with these. And actually, whilst on the subject, I'll briefly bring it up. I did think about doing it earlier on, but you look at the sentiment. There's looking across the board at the different brokers out there. There's some different major brokers. 75% are long euro, and well, it's the route where it seems to be going. This might need refreshing actually, but you can see, and a lot of these markets they're completely the opposite all around. If you look at the Aussie, or Euro Aussie, that's another classic. If I can see the Aussie dollar, there it is. Yeah, it's the other way around. It's completely against these markets, and we wonder why people lose money. But yes, they will at some stage be right, and well, could be today. But I would rather wait for the retracement and then sell or buy in this case on the move. And it's, to me, it might be a game of patience this morning. Wait for this to come back. It does look like it's a bit softer on this 60-minute at the moment. We saw it a lot last week where it came back for at least a couple of hours or so. It may be a bit longer. Where was this? This was Friday, wasn't it? So sold off quite nicely, then got a reversal in. It might be an afternoon trade, so there we are. We'll wait. I'll wait. You can do what you like. Canadian dollar. Caught analysis, yes, I do, super hands, and I haven't got time today to show you in it. But basically, the sentiment's getting worse for the euro. I've got that in the background. I checked through it before I started. Actually looked through yesterday evening to see where the caught analysis was. But yes, very much so. I want to be ideally in line with the bigger sentiment. Anyway, Canadian dollar. It's another difficult one, really. There might become opportunities here. It's sort of holding there. It's sitting on the edge, it seems, not making a lot of sense at the moment. But it's sort of there. But it sort of wants to come down. Lower highs, lower lows last week. We had the rally running through the later part of the week. I said in the earlier part of the week we had lower highs. Ideally, I say ideally, but with the price of oil being a commodity currency, I thought it might have followed the Aussie a little bit more, but it's just not. And it's a more difficult one to picture what's going on. It is selling at the moment, lower highs, lower lows, has gone through its weekly pivot, it's ticked that box off, it's ticked the daily pivot off, it's well, could be heading later, just got to watch it carefully. At the moment I'll sit out of that and wait. It's more of an afternoon trade if you trade in the Canadian dollar market normally, unless it sets up a particular signal. Right, there's the currencies. Let's look at the commodities. So no surprise really. Gold continuing its route. So long as what's going on is going on, it's most likely the point of least resistance is upside. Literally, we've gone through. If I come back to the weeklies here, we've gone through some major previous resistance points over the last couple of weeks. A couple of that we didn't hold on to it the previous week. Last week it's held up above those highs. It remains bullish in my book. There's a little gap on this, which I don't think was too much. It might come and close that gap, but that in itself on the lower time frames, I'm looking where the weekly pivot is. It's quite a way down there. There's not much of the gaps up here, so there's not much below it to do that. And the daily pivot's right away down here. It's quite a long way. It's actually quite quite a way down. Actually, weekly pivots more down, but it could coming back to some of these key moving averages give you opportunities. It's getting a bit steep on this latest movement through Friday. It pushed up quite steeply instead of a steady trend. It's a bit steeper. Sometimes that will just mean it will consolidate or pull back a little bit more, just the way it moves. Okay, moving on to oil then. Christina, oil. Could we look at silver tomorrow? Why tomorrow? Okay, we'll look at it today for you. Silver in a minute, but first oil. So oil's pushed up. Goodness, we were in a long on Friday, which I own up, I messed my one up, and it filled earlier than it should have, because the prices are different on here to what they are on my broker. I messed up, but it did hit the target area I was looking at. We were discussing whether it was worth. Here we go. It went right up to the target I was looking at later on in the evening there. But we were discussing whether or not we should leave a position open. But then the risk over the weekend is high, and I mean, if this had got his Harry hindsight, as Maverick in the room calls him, would have been saying, yep, I'd have left that one open. Yeah, it's in trend and everything, which is nice. But if that had gone the other way, I'd have been seriously out of pocket. So there's some big gaps on that. Now that gap might get filled, but at the moment, well, it's just continuing to push up there. I'm personally not trading the short side, so I'll let that happen if it happens, and then look for longs again. But I'd be very surprised if it gets filled in one day anyway to the downside. It might do over a couple of days. We saw this coming off last week where it came off, but it soon changed direction, and you can see it was quite a simple sort of decision to go long on this. Right, anyway, that's oil. Let's silver then. Where are you? Here, a quick look at silver. Silver's basically following the route. It's a cheaper safety measure, I suppose. It's not necessarily always getting the same oomph, but pound for pound, it's still pretty decent. And again, really just looking at a similar picture. It might have already gone there. It's closed its little gap. Look, it sort of started off there. Might get a continuation in the next hour. Just it's not much this hour left. Could be patient and wait for that. Right, there we go. But I have to remain bullish when it's doing what it's doing. Come back to the weekly, and it's solidly moving up there. A little bit, as I say, a little bit behind the curve to gold. Right, let's have a look at the other markets. Going to just switch services on this, and let's have a look. Super hands, just looking at I'll talk about the equity markets, but the S&Ps, the big money's been coming out since June last year, so it's been a good guide to say that, and that's why I'm so bearish on some of these markets. You look at them, and it's been a long-term sell-off by the big money. Now, it wouldn't have been a good idea for us as retail traders to do that, but good otherwise. Anyway, Bitcoin, crypto had a sad weekend, really. Saturday it pitched up a little bit and gave it all back on Sunday, and Friday certainly was a selling day. We're sort of sitting, it's becoming a bit of a range. I'm sort of looking from like this near-term high of what's sort of gone on here in wave situations. It's possibly an irregular second wave to this sort of pattern I can see before. I need to do a little bit more analysis on it, but for sure it's that 46 area, as I said last week, was key. It never got there, and at the moment it's once again looking on the more bearish side, with the lows certainly in a few people's targets, I should imagine. So same picture really through these markets. There's nothing that would get me saying, well, that's a little bit different. I'll be buying that one, looking for something there. They're all really at the moment quite bearish. It says that, and looks at Ripple, and it's sort of sitting in the middle. They're not really doing too. It's up this morning. It might be a bit of news coming out on Ripple, but we've still got the American court drama going on. They could have made a series of that, I should imagine. Oh, they probably will have. Lower highs, lower lows, all the way through all of these markets. So there we go. pretty similar cases. Not there's no point really going through the rest. I was looking at Binance because it's one that was starting to look a little bit better, but even that is gone again. Right, let's move across to the indices and just have a look across the world Asian market. Right, okay, looking at the CSI 300 first, another solid move down there. I know it's Groundhog Day again, but I'm still bearish. Nikkei, same situation, big moves there. They're holding, if you're in these positions, they're holding positions. They're not, it's hardly, well, I guess there is some chop amongst it all, but these are certainly positions that are running southwards. I can go straight to the FTSE here this morning, and there we go. No surprise there to see that opening on the downward run and pushing off at the moment. So continuation, the whole thing's changed here on the FTSE to where it was just such a short time ago. It's broken through some of its key support areas, beg your pardon, some of the key moving averages. We have got a key support area coming up at well, we've gone through the whole number at 7,000, which is quite a pivotal level, but we've got this level around about 68.35, which we saw quite a bit of support previously. So again, that will become quite pivotal going forwards. Anyway, let's move that back to daily before I get carried away and start talking about the weekly on the daily. Looking at the German market, the DAX 40 is off again this morning, and same old. You've got to wait for retracements on these. In my book, certainly they're not buyers markets. So just looking at continued retracements. S&Ps, same situation. This has been given us sort of retracements a little bit more. It's further away, but S&Ps, Nasdaq, all of them. There's gaps on these now. Just be wary that, in fact, those gaps, if they do come back to fill, will give us opportunities potentially to short into them. Okay, and the Nifty 50 just finishing off there. Nifty 50 also selling off. So there we go, gaps in these markets, but as they will be. But I expect, some of these gaps might get a bit of a fill tomorrow, maybe, or later. We might get a move towards those, but once completed, they give opportunities to sell movements at the moment. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there with you guys in the on the YouTube channel. I will catch you tomorrow morning. I wish you a great day's trading, whatever you're doing, and I'll catch you later. Take care. Right, end that.